How are you? It's been a few weeks, and I haven't forgotten about these life after loss diary videos. And firstly, I want to thank all of you that have reached out in some way to let me know that you're really valuing these videos, that they are assisting, however small that they may be. And I think just over the last few weeks, life was sort of was shifting for me, I guess, is the way to do it, moving out of where we'd been for a few months, coming back to me, I guess. So I think I needed some space to do that, to reorientate myself into my life and into my business once again, and into my purpose and my work. So I certainly haven't forgotten about these videos. I just needed that space, I guess, if I'm sort of connecting with the truth of that right now as I share it with you. And one of the things that I always had planned to talk to you about was this discussion that my ex and I had. And it was probably up early on in his diagnosis with cancer, and before we'd even got to chemo, he was, for those of you that don't know, he was diagnosed stage 4. So it was a month before we got to chemo, because we did have a little bit of a complication before that, and he was already heading into liver failure. And it was at that point where going into this, at the beginning of the year, I had messages from Spirit. I didn't know where they fitted. I didn't know who they were with, but I knew they centered around loss. And I knew that they were with a male and a father figure. But I didn't know which branch of the family. I didn't know how close it was to me. I didn't know any of that at the beginning of the year. So when we got to this point and we're sitting with the doctors, and the doctors talking about liver failure and giving us an end of life talk, as you can imagine, I got really upset. And at that point, my ex had sort of said to me, hey, it might be the drugs, but this is affecting you 10 times more than it's affecting me. And at that point, I sort of said to him, I believe that your soul knows. Your soul knows the outcome of this, that whatever the outcome may be, whether you regain some wellness, whether you end up leaving us, whatever it is, I believe that your soul already knows. And I came to that knowing, based on a couple of years ago, I'd had a message from Spirit. I was just questioning life and questioning Spirit in regards to the mechanics of how we live. And at one point they had sort of said to me that the soul knows. There's really no such thing as an unexpected passing. That in the lead up to it, the soul knows intuitively that it's time to leave. So, and I know over the years, over the 20 years that I've been doing this work, that there have been lots of connections I've made to loved ones in the spirit world that have validated that have had experiences and have come through and said that yes, they did know, and that the things that they had done or said, or things that they had alluded to, whether they'd made mention of certain things, whether they had started talking as if, hey, like, well, if I'm not here, then I want you to do this, it's or if they had sort of, changed their thoughts around what they were doing and really sort of hooked into living life in a more fuller spectrum for a little bit. There've been lots of connections over the years that have truly come through and validated that. So when Spirit sort of said to me a couple of years ago that that was the case, then I know that it becomes my truth. It's the kind of thing of when I speak to Spirit and I receive those kind of answers about life, about the mechanics of the soul. I know that I don't question that when I hear it from Spirit. I might question it if I'm hearing it from another person or if I'm reading it in a book, because other people's truth may not be mine. But if I'm hearing it from Spirit, then I know that on some level that is my truth. It's my connection to the universe. So anyway, that's how I come to have that belief. And then this was the first opportunity that I got to share that thought with my ex, being in the position that we were in. Anyway, in amongst that discussion was happening, in amongst seeing the doctor, blood tests, all of those sort of things anyway. And as we were leaving that day, and I was driving him back home and we were walking to the car, he sort of said to me, he goes, I think you're right. I think you're right that the soul does know. And we talked about, I said, yeah, there would be a greater sense of peace. And I said that what happens too is the soul slowly starts to disengage so that there is less physical pain. The attachments sort of slowly start to process and unwind, and I guess a new intuition the intuition of the soul slowly starts to kick in as to what's needed to be done, what's needed to tie up any loose ends. So I just wanted to share that thought with you. Just, having, as a medium, having received that insight a few years ago, and then also having someone close in my own life that I could have that discussion with, and that they did feel that for them it was truth. That it, having had the thought put to him, my ex then could sit and go, yeah, that feels right, and while it still went unsaid, while we knew at some point that he may not be with us anymore, and there were things that we were attending to along those lines, we still had hope that we had time, So anyway, I just wanted to share with you my thoughts on, really, does the soul know? Does the soul intuitively know that its end of life here on earth is coming? And yes, I absolutely believe that to be the case. And have a think about, for those of you that have lost loved ones, many of us have, have a think about, did things sort of shift and change in the last 6 months before any illness diagnosis, before any accident? Were there different phrases that they were using, different thoughts processing in their head in the last 6 months of their life? Is there, I know often clients have sort of sat before me and said, like, if I look back, I can sort of see some things that sort of go, oh, I think they knew, and I just wanted to share with you that is part of my truth. It's part of the belief system that I have with how this soul journey works, is the fact that we intuitively at some point do know that our time is coming. And therefore there's no, while unexpectedness may be a set of circumstances on a soul level and unexpected passing, it's all planned, you know. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And there are still certainly a lot of circumstances that I sort of think, okay, does this apply in every situation? You know, whether it's certainly, I believe it applies in things like natural causes. When there are other circumstances, such as things like suicide and losing someone's life at the hand of another, I think my jury's still out on those. There's still conversations that I would need to still have with Spirit about, because I do have different beliefs around those. As in, I don't think some of those are intended by Spirit at all. Whereas I guess I'm really talking about a passing that is part of the process of Spirit, and part of that, it's guided by Spirit. And some situations are not necessarily guided by Spirit. So yeah, those are just my thoughts for the day, just to share with you. I've got a few more of these videos coming, and if you want a recap of them or anything, I have put them all together on one page on my blog. So let me know and I can shoot you that link. But for now, thanks for listening, and anyone has any questions at all, by all means, I'm happy to engage in conversation and discussion around this topic. So God bless, have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.